Well, police in Northern Ireland say they've uncovered a terrorist plot ahead of President Biden's trip to Belfast this week. The Belfast Telegraph reports that members of the new IRA paramilitary group were allegedly looking to buy bomb parts in Derry, not far from the border with the Republic of Ireland. One source telling the paper the group's leader wanted to overshadow the president's visit. Let's bring in Niall Stanage, White House columnist with The Hill. Niall, thank you for being here. So President Biden says this alleged plot will not impact his trip. But how serious of a threat do you think this is?
A couple of ways of answering that, Kelly. On one level, any time an armed group is looking apparently to procure bomb parts, that's obviously serious by its nature. And these groups have been able to enact acts of violence at times. Having said all that, there's obviously a massive security operation in place for the president's visit. These groups are pretty small and do not have very much popular support. That has meant that they're kind of riddled with informants. So it is a threat, but I don't think we should get it out of proportion.
So do you think this is more about sending a message to the U.S., the U.K. government?
Sending a message to the world, really. I mean, when I was growing up in Belfast, an earlier phase of the conflict, there was a phrase, armed propaganda. And what that really referred to was the idea that even if a paramilitary group did not have the capacity to win a military victory, it could use armed actions to keep the spotlight on the issue, to get publicity for its cause. I think that's primarily what this is about.
Interesting. And we know you know this area well. What do you believe an attack during the president's trip? What would that represent to people on the other side of the Ireland-UK border?
Well, I mean, I think across the island of Ireland, it would be an embarrassment for a start, particularly in the north. There is this idea that it is synonymous still with the conflict and that acts as a brake on economic investment, for example. But it's also a reminder of just how deadly and dangerous the conflict was there at its height from roughly the late 1960s to late 1990s. And so it would be a very ominous sign if this were to take place.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. This is commemorating this time, 25 years since the Good Friday Agreement was signed in 1998, effectively ending more than 30 years of political and religious violence in Northern Ireland. What kind of sign do you believe, or do you think this could be a sign that things are escalating again?
It depends where you draw the baseline when we talk about escalation. There has definitely been an increase in tension in the past few years. Some of that relates to Brexit for reasons that are very complicated to explain, to do with border and customs controls. So there are dangers of an escalation. Having said that, that worst phase of the so-called Troubles was much, much worse than what we're experiencing or what we're even in danger of experiencing right now.
All right, fascinating perspective. Niall, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.